Kathleen Kennedy has struck again, and she is blaming the male-dominated fan base of Star Wars for the toxic response to all of their new projects. They're promoting Acolyte right now, which is the next Star Wars series to go up on Disney+. And they decided the best way to promote this project is trashing Star Wars fans.
Jesus.
That's a great strategy.
It works
Never failed before.
It works every time.
Yeah, time tested. Kathleen Kennedy says, I think a lot of the women who step into Star Wars struggle with toxic fandom attacks a bit more. Because of the fan base being so male-dominated, they sometimes get attacked in ways that can be quite personal. Operating within these giant franchises now, with social media and the level of expectation, it's terrifying.
Well, I'm going to no, there is no expectation anymore. Sorry, the expectation is that it's garbage.
Also, Leslie Headland, if you didn't know, she's the creator of The Acolyte and former personal assistant to Harvey Weinstein.
Yes.
She also had comments for us. I know how frustrating some Star Wars storytelling in the past has been. I stand by my empathy for the fans, but I want to be clear. Anyone who engages in bigotry, racism, or hate speech, I don't consider a fan.
Hate speech isn't a thing.
It's so dumb because it's like what is going to be considered hate speech is going to change from minute to minute because it's dictated by the left. There's no standard. It's so ridiculous.
Well, if you say you hate The Acolyte, that's hate speech.
Apparently.
You're not allowed to say that you hate something they made.
But if you hate a Taylor Sheridan show, you're good. You're a smart person for hating a Taylor Sheridan show. See, it's unequally distributed between all shows and movies. Doesn't matter.
Female stars Daisy Ridley and Kelly Marie Tran certainly faced online harassment from toxic fans when the most recent Star Wars film trilogy released.
I thought Finn did as well. I was told that John Boyega also got that because of being an African American, not an African American, a black man.
The Acolyte is already being attacked in certain corners of the fandom. They always say that. The dark corners
of the internet.
If you don't like Disney Star Wars content, then you're on the dark side. So you're like Darth Vader.
It's like when a CBS television show uses the term dark web.
They really thought they ate with that one.
Yeah.
I hate it so much.
So Leslie Headland's show, The Acolyte, includes major new female Star Wars characters, played by the likes of Amandla Stenberg, Carrie Ann Moss, and Jodie Turner-Smith.
3 women.
Yes. A loud, primordial part of the Star Wars fandom has pushed back in predictable fashion against the show. Why are there so many women, girls, and minority characters increasingly dominating the ranks of Jedi? Reads a comment on the Acolyte trailer, with others expressing a similar worldview. Some trolls have nicknamed Leslie Headland's series The Wokalite. That one made me laugh when I saw it. But, like, is that not a valid criticism? It's a male-dominated fan base. They want to see men being the protagonists in the shows and the movies. I mean, the creation of a Star Wars show in general, it doesn't compute with me. It only translates in my mind to movies.
I just don't understand why they want to be at odds with their fan base. Like, if your fan base is mostly men, why are you antagonistic to men? I don't get it. It just doesn't make any sense because it's not bringing women in. They've been doing this for a decade. They're not attracting women. The thought process, if I understand correctly, was we make women...
We already make it for men.
Yeah,
now we can bring
we're
the
going to
women
make it for
audience
women
in.
because
It's
the
fans'
men we
audience.
believe will come for Star Wars because of the product, because of the history, and we'll bring in women. The women aren't showing up, guys. The women are not showing up. So I don't know what you're doing, but you're not making a product that your legacy fans like, and you're not drawing in the new fans. So you're blowing it. Maybe just stop blowing it.
8 episodes, $180 million budget.
Amazing.
Unreal.
That could have been a movie.
Yeah.
If they budgeted it properly.
It could have.
Yeah. I mean, what did you say? To feminists, all men are like the president or their dad.
Yeah, feminists look at all men as either the president or their dad. And there are no garbage collectors. There are no dudes that ever die doing hard jobs. There are no police officers that get the crap kicked out of them by, crazy people. There are no police officers that are keeping the streets safe, that make it possible for them to walk. There's no firemen. There's no men that do the thankless jobs or the hard jobs. It's just the president and dad, because it's the guy that keeps me down. I was talking to someone else about it. That's all feminism, and there's one other grievance group that
Their
treats
ex-boyfriends.
CEOs.
Every
kinda.
male Star Wars fan is their toxic ex-boyfriend.
Yes, yeah. And then as far as the CEOs, it's like, the whole, like, the idea that 50% of CEOs of Fortune 500 companies should be women. That's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. It's astounding if there's one, because men are the high achievers, because men are the ones that are on the extremes of the
women shouldn't theoretically want to be CEOs anyways. They should want to build consensus around those jobs, and they should want 5 women being the CEO. I'm sorry, 1 woman, 1 dude.
The ideal woman is not a man. Like that, the ideal woman is not a man. So stop listening to people that tell you the ideal woman is a man.
I saw this from Disper. He says Disney really thinks the Acolyte thing will pop off, don't they? If you look at some of the views from these videos, they're not.
Where are they
pulling. So, like, if we're looking at trailers, we got
a $20,
views.
real quick, from Mr. Moose Knuckle. The fact that Star Wars is a male-dominated fan base, their words, has them seething.
Maybe.
Every single one of these videos should be in the multi-millions of views.
With the cachet of Star Wars as a franchise, yes.
Correct.
But they've ruined it.
Yes.
They have completely thrown that into the dumpster fire.
Yep.
And Kathleen Kennedy vocally supports this creative vision for the Acolyte, saying, "My belief is that storytelling does need to be representative of all people."
That is not true.
So that was an
110%.
easy decision for me.
That is storytelling can possibly be
All people.
Any story can be that, but not all stories need to be that. Meaning that it is the possibility that any story made could possibly cover something for a group of people or multiple groups of people, but no one story can represent all people. That's insane and impossible.
The whole thought process is just, what if we put a sassy Gen Z black woman with dreadlocks into a Star Wars show? Wouldn't that be groundbreaking?
No.
And it never is.
No.
It's just...
It'd be stupid.
Yeah, but where's the representation for, those toxic white males? I'm not seeing it.
Where's what?
The toxic white males in the Star Wars fan base don't have their representation.
They don't anymore. They had Luke, and he's it. That's it. Now you got Luke and Han, and then see it.
Yeah, so Kathleen Kennedy says, "I think Leslie Headland has struggled a little bit with it. I think a lot of the women struggle with this toxic fan base, getting attacked." Mm-hmm. And now Leslie Headland admits that she has blocked anyone sending her negative comments. She's already started to limit her exposure to online chatter about the show to block out any of the toxic fans, and the show hasn't even debuted yet.
To be honest, I don't really care about her doing that. Like, that doesn't actually bother me at all. Like,
but it just sounds like I don't want to hear criticism of the thing I created.
Her time is at a premium. She's not going to get lost. It's too late now, anyways. If you were going to course correct, you already would have. Pop
Culture Junkie. The moment Kathleen Kennedy started to wear the Force is Female t-shirt years ago, I knew the franchise was in trouble.
Okay, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. I thought that was like proven that wasn't at a Star Wars event, that was for like a Nike event or something like that. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong.
Then why would it say the Force?
It was like
I think it started as the future is female.
Yeah, okay,
and then
so
Star Wars fans adapted it to be the Force is female.
The future is female shirt. She got seen with a shirt saying the future is female, and that was like at a Nike event.
I actually bought a shirt that says the future is male at the time, just to be contrarian.
Of course. Of course.
But yeah, it's just, I don't believe that they're actually fans of Star Wars. They always claim to be.
Well, yeah, I mean,
but they're not.
Again, likes on social media doesn't translate to views on Disney Plus or tickets sold.
No, I mean the people like Leslie Headland or Kathleen Kennedy. Yeah. I don't believe it when they say like, I've always been a fan of Star Wars.
She's been involved with Lucasfilm since the beginning, for a lot of decades. So that makes perfect sense.
She's just an executive.
Yeah,
like she's the ultimate girl boss executive and doesn't care about the source material at all. Which is fine, but just don't hate the people who do care about it.
Yeah. I see stuff like this, and what you have to do is a lot of times you're going to get a lot of pushback and a lot of people saying, no, everything's fine. Take the 30,000 foot view. They haven't made their money back on Star Wars. They got the franchise for a fire sale. They got Star Wars for $4 billion. That's nothing. That's nothing for a franchise that was that successful. They should have made their money back in 10 seconds. They have not made their money back. They've tried to hide that through funny money or funny bookkeeping when they were trying to keep out Nelson Peltz, the activist investor, who just yesterday sold all his Disney stock, made $1 billion off of it.
Do you think that
views are down? Yeah. Nobody cares. And then I saw other people, one of the other excuses there was like, seems like you care too much about children's entertainment. Sorry, this isn't children's entertainment. Kids do not give a crap about Star Wars.
Nope.
They do not, and they never will. Just like women don't give a crap about Star Wars. No, there's not all. It's like when Matt Walsh was talking today about saying like, not eating less and exercising more will lose weight for everybody. And then somebody goes, actually, there's this one specific condition where like, yes, nobody's saying all inherently.
Everyone hates that person too.
Yes, exactly.
Everybody hates you. When you do that, everyone hates you. Everyone hates you.
When people say that Star Wars is a male-dominated franchise and say that women don't care, they're not saying all women don't care. They're saying that a negligible amount of women cannot move the needle when it comes to purchases and views for the company right now. The people that you've catered your material to don't care. Any company that wasn't ideologically inclined would shift course. You're not going to do that, and you will continue to fail no matter how much people online tell you the views are good.
Yeah. They had this whole audience of basically Gen X men that could have
and boomers
given them a profit, and they were like, no thanks, we'll go for... I mean, it's just like Gen Z doesn't care about superhero movies. The data points that out. And
even then, like when we
Gen
made that
Z
video,
doesn't care about Star Wars.
We made that video, and like people would say, like, actually, I'm Gen Z and I watch Disney Plus. I'm like,
it's not about you.
We're not saying no. We're saying the majority don't.
It's literally a reading comprehension skill to know who the audience is for a certain message. So nobody needs to give the disclaimer that a certain message is not for this person, this group. That's your responsibility to know.
What Zach from Comics Matter talks about, he goes like, comics could have survived forever on the divorced dentist demographic, meaning like, they've got disposable income. They'll buy
divorced dentist.
That's how he always phrased it. The divorced dentist demographic, meaning that they love the comics growing up. They've got disposable income now, so they can afford to buy 7 variant covers for every comic that you make. Instead, you're not marketing to them and you're losing the divorced dentist demographic. Maybe you don't have that demographic for Star Wars, but you have the Gen X and the boomer demographic and the outside range of the millennial men demographic. And that would have supported you just fine if you had continued to make stuff for them to pass down theoretically to their sons. I'm
looking at the beginning lines of this New York Times interview with Leslie Headland, and this just says it all. She said she was ostracized at school for being different. She retreated inward, making stop-motion films starring her action figures. Okay, so you're literally doing Revenge of the Nerds right now. Mm-hmm. It's very clearly what's going on. Mm-hmm.
You're putting your own trauma ahead of the storytelling, which is, and guess what? Here's the problem. That's fine if you're making your own stuff. If you're making your own art and you're telling your own story, you can do that all you want. When you've taken the reins of $1 billion franchise, it is not your job to put your trauma ahead of it.
This is so freaking lame. Like, how do they think this sells the show? The Acolyte embraces what some people call new Star Wars, an era defined by diversity and expansion. Amandla Stenberg stars as a dreadlocked warrior who has a complicated relationship with a Jedi Master, played by Lee Jung-jae, I believe, from Squid Game in his first English-speaking role. Jodie Turner-Smith plays the lesbian leader of a regal coven of witches, while the Filipino-Canadian actor Manny Jacinto appears as a shadowy traitor. They're just listing off a bunch of check boxes for representation instead of selling you on the story that's being told. And you couldn't tell any story that anyone cares about that comes after the original trilogy anyway.
$20 one there.
Thank you. Where is that? The Rumbling said Cara Dune, i.e. Gina Carano, before firing, good character. Ahsoka and Bo-Katan before Kathleen, good characters. Princess Leia before Disney, great female character. Maybe guys write better female leads than feminists.
I mean,
Would you guys say that's true?
I have actually really extensive thoughts on this when it comes to writing, but it not really inherent to this discussion. But I do have a lot of thoughts on men writing male characters and female characters and women that write men and women. That I started writing all of this stuff down when I got into the discussion about Furiosa being edited by George, by his wife, and whether that actually makes a difference. And I don't know if it inherently matters. I think that for a story to work well up until that character truly grows, that the story has to blossom around it, and that really depends. But in this sense, it's got a lot to do with the fact that men were writing it, I'm sure, but it also has a lot to do with the fact that before Star Wars was as politicized as it was, these things weren't the forethought. Their gender wasn't the forethought of the discussion. It didn't matter.
We were talking about this with Furiosa, about the idea that people are just sick of female protagonists in general, regardless of how they're written or the context. And, you know, a lot of people said, we're not sick of female protagonists, we're just sick of poorly written female characters. I disagree, because I think it's a perfectly valid thing to complain about. I think it's a perfectly valid thing to say, like, yeah, I'm sick of there being constantly female protagonists, female leads in literally everything.
I guess the idea would be for the next 5 years, make a Barbie movie every year, but don't put Barbie in it, make it about Ken. And see if the same tropes that bother, you know, men and women there, that men seem to have the problem with, you know, it's harder to buy into female action movies because it's inherently war and combat are things that are more inherent to the male, to men. Perhaps
Women don't care about that
so
stuff.
it's harder to buy into the story when you go so far, when you so consistently go outside the norm. So, you know, start making movies about straight white men running makeup shops and see how that goes. Get a dude wearing a Harley Davidson jacket who's just disgusting and looks sloppy, but have him run a boutique and see if you have a hard time buying into that.
I mean, I think people have just lost sight of what women are, so you can't write stories about women.
Also, it is fair to point out, maybe it doesn't have to do with whether a man or a woman writes it. It has to do with whether a man or a feminist writes it.
Yeah, but there are no non-feminist women left in Hollywood or society in general.
and when I say a man or a feminist, I actually mean a man or a female feminist, because so when he was making Furiosa, he basically said, he talks about, he's like, I can't help but be a feminist.
He said that during promotion for Furiosa?
For Fury Road.
Oh.
Yes.
Why would that factor in?
I mean, I'm probably leading questions, but the point is, a male feminist might be able to write it better than a female feminist, but I don't know. Just some thoughts to consider.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.